Episode 120, Exercise, Training Your Mind to See Good in Every Situation.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
Three, two, one, and boom! We've achieved to kill another week with great work. I hope. Good ideas in a retrospect. Great episodes, great feedback, and in that sense, welcome to the very best podcast in the world. Your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. This podcast is golden. The gold standard for personal development. I think, looking back at the previous 119 episodes, and most importantly, the feedback that was, collectively pretty much sent to the very best podcast in the world at gmail.com. That is an open invite for you also to send your feedback to me so that, this show can grow and, that the episodes can be shared more widely. And that can only happen with feedback. And despite the fact that there were, negative feedback things, negative feedback elements, not things, elements. Let us speak proper English. We're in there, I think about 99%. No, about 97. Let's be honest. 97% of the feedback that we got up until now was positive. Whatever, positive. So in that sense, it was like, how can, someone like me who, and I've been blessed in life, really, the careers that I've mentioned to you, the lives, I call them really lives because in pretty much any way, they were so fucking unique that, you could actually write a life story about the episodes that I've been through, the careers that I've made, the companies I created. And most importantly are, however, the things I don't really mention and I'm not really too astute about. It's really helping people. And this was, one of the things that I never communicated really was the coaching bit, what I actually did. It was like more of I don't know, was it coaching? Was it spiritual healing? Was it giving strength? Was it motivating? Was it bringing forward? Was it detaching, decoupling the past from the current? I don't know what it was, but in context of a rewarding feeling, I think these things were by far the most motivating things for me, and I've repeatedly mentioned outtakes, short snippets of the things that I did there, but it wasn't really ever a consistent project that I went into. It wasn't really that I trained to be a motivator, that I wasn't trained to be a coach and to help people move forward. But I was good at it because I really enjoyed it. And in fact, had I been more passionate about it, I think maybe I could have turned it into a profession. Maybe I will turn it into a profession. I don't know. Honestly, no idea. But most importantly, though, and that's what, boils down to everything, was to see every situation you're confronted with in a positive light. And I don't know how I was able to achieve that, and how to spin pretty much every situation into a positive direction. No idea. Can't tell you whether I have been microdosed with psilocybin for the past couple of decades, or whether there's a higher amount of lithium in my body, which presumably makes you happy and more positive in a way. Also, no idea. Couldn't tell you. But what I learned is that a lot of the positive energy that let's not call it positive energy, but let's call it putting a positive spin on any situation, no matter what it is. That's really a talent that can be learned. And that's what this episode is going to be about. It's about training your mind to see good in every situation and to give it a positive spin into a direction where, you can. Sometimes it's important to trick the mind just to be happy, because the happiness is going to keep you going. And that's, I think, the foundational layer of this episode, right? A while ago, we had this episode, was called Existence Without Negativity, I believe. And the issue was similar, only with a negative connotation, because it contained the word negative. And if I recall correctly, it was about differentiating between, people who are these negative Nancy's, who apparently try to look at this field of flowers that is there, and they find the one piece of grass that's there that doesn't belong there. And that's what they direct their energy towards. And this episode is going to be about the opposite. It's about giving a positive spin to perhaps even negative and very negative situations, right? It was like, I was at a funeral of a family member. I can't remember who it was. And one of our relatives was there, and he said, well, the positive spin about funerals is that the entire family comes together. And while tasteless at first, he was absolutely right. You have your family feuds, you have your differences, and, things get out of hand and you don't talk to each other anymore. But to a funeral, everybody comes. And the situation was that I think some aunt and another uncle figured a dispute out that they'd been having for I don't know, upwards of 2 decades probably. And all of a sudden they were talking to each other again. So, even death can have something positive. And while everybody was grieving, I think the guy was right. It was very right of him to point that out, because that stuck, right? And so how do you go about emphasizing, or really not emphasizing, but you're emphasizing the positive in any situation, right? How do you do that? And that's really very interesting, because I don't know how I do it, really. I know very much so that a lot about this talent is about awareness. And it's the capability of deconstructing a situation into all moving parts. It's like, stupid idea, or stupid example. We were completing an apartment, and it took years because there were so many issues and challenges that came along and I was so demotivated, because every time you went into the place, you knew that somebody was going to give you a bad news situation, right? Always. Every single fucking time I set foot into that place, it was like, oh yeah, by the way, we have this situation. And it got to a point where I just couldn't go there anymore. I kind of let it be, and said, okay, whatever, just, I don't know. We had invested significant amounts of money into that place. But it was like, okay, what do we do now? How do I, actually manage to get a positive spin out of that thing? And friends came by, and and he said, we were looking at the place, and he said, well, it's almost finished. And I said, yeah, well, it only took like 2.5 years for, 40 square meters. And he was like, well, look on the positive side. At least no terrorists were in there and bombed your house. And while this idea was so far out, it made me chuckle and say, yeah, okay, it's a stupid point, but it's a point. And that was what was missing for me and gave me a little bit of more energy, and pressurizing factors came in later that made us actually complete the place. But yeah, it's about really, no matter how stupid the positive thing is, there's always a reason for it, right? And being aware really changed my mind. I sat down and said, okay, here are the things, where are the risks, what do we have to expect in these kind of issues? And still, the place is making problems and challenges. But I'm a totally different person at approaching it now. And looking at situations like that, for me, that I tend to give up on something, is probably, I don't know, about 0.5% of situations that I'm confronted with. No, this is 0.1% or less, on stuff that I give up upon. Sometimes I need a bit more time than others would, more likely than not. But I do get my shit done. Perhaps even on time. But seriously though, so this episode is really more than anything about reframing. And, we had that in episode 71, I believe it was, where I said, allow me to take away all of your problems. Yeah, I think it was episode 71. And it was like reframing a situation you're confronted with into something positive is a skill you can easily learn. And that's where we're going to get back to, is just, how do you do that? So analyzing a situation, whatever it may be, will always leave you with at least a minuscule amount of a potential positive outcome. And for my better half and I, and let me give you an example here. My better half and I were, I don't know, since we came together, pretty much every piece of shit we touch turns to gold. Not immediately, trust me, but inevitably down the line, it will somehow benefit us. And there are actually so many situations where this came true that I would have difficulty finding one in particular that I would point out. But some things, at the end of the day, or everything at the end of the day turns into something positive. And that's something which motivates me. Whatever it may be, spiritual or, I don't know, karma or whatever, it is our mutual relationship that really, I don't know, makes everything good at, again, not immediately, but it does. So for me, this is like a very positive spin. I know that everything we touch together really turns into something good. And so for me, that's an anchor that I use to always take out a positive vibe out of pretty much any situation confronted with. What else? This is where it gets difficult, and I'm kind of losing my words, because for me, it's very simple. So, if you have further questions, again, please write to theverybestpodcastintheworld@gmail.com if things are unclear here, because I'm having problems really trying to find a unified approach. I think it's best said like I just attempted. Look at a situation, look at any situation in life, right? Be aware of that minuscule amount of positivity that's in there, whatever it is. And then you emphasize that. You emphasize on that. You enlarge it. You focus on the positive. through awareness. And once you achieve to put so much positive energy into it, it's like a growth process. It's like watering a flower. It's watering that positive, minuscule seed that is in inside this ginormous fuck up that you're looking at. But watering this minuscule seed, this minimal seed, this little itty bitty innocent seed with enough water and nutrients, which are your focus, will blow that flower up, and set that into the foreground, and everything negative attached to it will immediately start to fade out and blur out, and put a totally new spin on that situation. So I think, we had the reframing bit and everything that was a bit abstract, but this is, I don't know, a rather concrete thing you can be doing. Let me know how it goes. Look at situations which you're confronted with in life, whatever it may be, and focus on the problem, be aware of the entirety of the situation, and then focus on the positive that it can potentially bring you, and focus that and nurture that and give that, make that the central spin. Let all the negative aspects which are in the background fade out, blur out, gray out, and focus your energy on the positive. And you will see that once you get a hang of it, it's going to be very easy to lead a much more positive life. And that's going to be the exercise for this weekend, is to, let your mind see the good in every possible situation. In that sense, I hope I made sense in that sense, and wish you a happy weekend. And please again email me and let me know how it went. And I'm kind of curious to see how that went for you. Again, if you have questions, please ask them. If these incoherent ramblings made any sense at all to you, please share this episode with friends and family and whomever may be in need of, having a training exercise on emphasizing on seeing the positive in pretty much every situation. Share this episode with them, and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Now I'm gonna let you have a nice and relaxed weekend, and hopefully you come out more positively afterwards, and that on Monday you're gonna approach the world in a totally more positive way. Have a nice weekend, and we'll be in touch on Monday when we're going to talk about why not to make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. Have a nice weekend, friends. Stay safe, stay sound, stay happy, or become more happy. And we'll be in touch on Monday. Peace out.